Hi, my name is Becky Spurbeck, and I'm a senior writer at Health Partners. And I'm going to talk about how to lower reading level and why it's essential, regardless of your industry and your audience. But first, a story. In about 2008, my friend Liz and I were at a bar, and a guy approached us, and he turned to Liz and said, "So, what do you do for work?" And she said, "I'm a subscription services custom content copywriter." He was like, cool. So, what do you do all day?" And she said, "Well, I create online marketing solutions for small to medium-sized law firms." And he was like, cool. And then he turned to me and he was like, "What about you? What do you do for work?" And I said, "Well, I interview lawyers and then I write about them." He was like, "That's really cool. Like, what kind of stuff do you write about?" And I said, "Well, I interview the lawyers to understand their firm and their practice area and the type of clients they want. And then I write a website advertising their skills. It's a way to help them get more clients." He was like, "That's super cool." And then he followed that up with like 15 questions. And we talked about it for a long time. So why is that the story that I started with? Well, Liz and I were coworkers. We actually were in the same job. Like, we did the same thing all day. But when Liz was asked about her work, she talked about it in a way that was technically correct, but something that nobody would understand. And when I was asked about my job, I used language that people know, things that they could relate to. And that's an essential part of writing, is using language that your clients know and understand, and then shaping your writing in a way that makes it easy to read without thinking about it. And a great gauge for knowing if your reading or if your writing is readable is by checking the grade level. A pretty widely accepted standard is writing to a 7th grade level and then checking that with the Flesch-Kincaid readability formula. And this is true regardless of your audience and regardless of your business. And there's potential downfalls of using grade level as a way to measure readability, and I'll address those. And there's also other ways to measure readability, and I'll talk about those too. But first, let's talk about why it's important to write at a 7th grade level and what's at stake when we don't. You've probably heard of the Nielsen-Norman group. They do studies on how users use computers. And in one study, they measured a bunch of things about how people read website content. With low literacy users, readers understood less than half of what they read in websites. But when those websites were rewritten to a 7th grade level, their comprehension almost doubled. They understood 86% of what they read. 82%. But you're probably thinking, "But Becky, that's low literacy users. That's not my audience. I write for doctors or lawyers, or I write business-to-business copy, or I write press releases, or my users are all smart and well-educated." And that's great. I'm glad you have really, really smart users. But actually the same thing is true with higher literacy users. On average, higher literacy users understood about 68% of what was on a website. That's about 2/3. When the website was rewritten to a 7th grade reading level, however, their comprehension went up to 93%. They understood almost everything that they read. Now, I don't know about you, but when I spend time writing copy and getting approvals, it's because it's information that people need to know. This year at Confab, one of the biggest themes that I heard was that it's our job as writers and strategists and storytellers, it's our job to protect the user's experience. And a huge part of that is having content that they can read and understand quickly. This is an introduction to my talk, and some of the other things I'll talk about include guess the reading level game, an explanation of why 7th grade is a good standard, how reading level is calculated, and tips to change your writing if your reading level is too high. And for all the skeptics, I'll talk about the downfall of using reading level, but why the benefits outweigh those. Thank you so much for considering my application. I look forward to seeing you at Confab and geeking out with my fellow content people.